Yes, there is certainly a huge fragmentation of Spanish politics. And look, the coalition that Pedro Sanchez had in November 2019 was the first one ever. Normally, whether it was the Socialists or the centre-right party of Partido Popular, they had enough seats themselves to have the majority. But certainly they've been relying more and more on some of these smaller parties. And the equation certainly look more and more complicated as time evolved. But certainly what we can say from the results of the election that happened yesterday is that the blue wave that we saw in the regional election in May certainly did translate into a blue wave into this national election. The centre-right party, the Partido Popular, that was always coming first in the polls, didn't reach the numbers that they were hoping to reach. They had set themselves the target of 150 seats. They didn't reach that. They got 136. Certainly they are the top party, but they didn't do as well as expected. And their potential coalition partner, the far-right party of Vox, have lost seats compared to the last election of November 2019. They went from 52 seats to 33. A big lesson here, because we saw a lot of articles here talking about this right-wing wave coming through Europe, whether Meloni had set a precedent and we could see Vox in government. So that could still potentially be the case. But certainly one key message here is that Vox didn't do as well expected. If anything, they have lost seats. Now, looking at Pedro Sanchez, big political gamble he did with calling that snap election, calling it for this summer instead of December, catching by speed some of his opponents. It looks like maybe, just maybe, he might have paid off. Certainly for himself and his Socialist Party, they come out with more seats than in the previous election. So he comes in a position of strength. But he relies on other partners, and that's where the fragmentation comes in. He relies on a lot of smaller regional and nationalist parties, and the negotiation could be very, very tough. A lot of these parties, even before the election, I said, look, if Pedro Sanchez wants our support, the price will be very high. So now it will be very tricky. And even if the current coalition still come to an agreement, they still wouldn't reach a magic number of 176. So a lot of these talks and negotiations will go on now. The Congress will sit for the first time on the 17th of August, and then the King will name one of the leaders to try and form a government. And from what we heard from last night, Mr. Núñez Feijóo, the leader of the Partido Popular, said that because he came as top party, he should be the one trying to form a government.
Our obligation now is to avoid a period of uncertainty. Spaniards today have put their trust in the Popular Party. They have also said that all the political parties across the parliament must have dialogue. And as the candidate of the party that has the most votes, I think that my duty is to open the dialogue, so I can lead this dialogue from the first minute and try to govern our country, accepting our victory in the electoral results.
And the key word that Pedro Sanchez had in the final days of the campaign was the remontada, the comeback of his party. And certainly looking again at the numbers for his party, he did quite well. And that was one of the key messages yesterday, kind of a message of a victory as well, and saying that he managed to defeat the right-wing bloc and their message.
Those who vouch for machismo, the regression of rights and liberties, have failed today. The backward bloc of PP and Vox has been defeated. Those who want to keep Spain advancing are many more than those who want to go backward with the Popular Party and Vox. Spain, Spaniards, companions, we are many more. We will continue advancing, and that's what will happen.
So now all these negotiations will start, and Sanchez will try to bring in some of these parties that make just between 1% and 2% of the national vote. But that could be absolutely crucial here, including parties from Catalonia and from the Basque country. So we'll have to see what some of their demands might be. They could flare up some of these potential issues and some independence movements in the country. But now we'll have to wait and see. Once they sit and once someone is named to be able to form a government, then they will have 3 months to try to form a coalition. If they fail, then we would have another election. That's what happened in 2019. Remember, there was an election in April. No one managed to reach a majority, and then I had another election in November. What some are calling is just, how about a grand coalition? How about the Partido Popular and the Socialists try to work together to make a majority? That has never happened in Spain before. So we're calling for this to try to cut off some of this ongoing instability that we've seen in Spain. Again, in 2019, 2 elections, and they had 4 elections within 4 years at that time. So certainly that might mandate of Pedro Sanchez now was complete for the 4 years, but now there's a lot of uncertainty on who might be able to actually form a majority. So a lot at stake here. One good thing, though, is that turnout was quite strong, despite this election being in the middle of the summer holiday and a heat wave, at more than 70%. So that was a positive message there, the postal vote helping boost the turnout. So a lot of talks are there, but certainly the key message is that the centre-right didn't do as well as expected. The far-right certainly did much worse than expected, and Pedro Sanchez comes himself in a stronger position after this snap election gamble, guys.